Første
starten.
Craftsmanship-deltager, vi skal have på scenen, er GravefulGodfish Cosplay. Cosplayer som Princess Anna fra Frozen. So, we're gonna do this in English. So, Hannah's always really adored Princess Anna from the movie Frozen. It was refreshing to see a princess that was clumsy and awkward, and it made her instantly fall in love with the character. The cosplay has 6 main pieces: the skirt, the corset, the undershirt, the wig, the boots, and the cape. Taking it from the top, the wig is a lace front that has been trimmed and braided with an added white weft. The corset is made from black velvet and is fully lined, boned, and embellished with hand embroidery. The undershirt is made with confident mind from a stretched cotton with a couple of cute lace details. The skirt is made with a beautiful satin where all the floral details have been cut from iron-on vinyl and ironed onto the skirt, and added a couple of green rhinestones. This took a long time. The boots were a pair of black boots modified to fit the cute mountain climber aesthetic. The cape was probably the most ambitious part. It is made from a combination of wool and satin, with the details made from fleece, iron-on vinyl, and rhinestones. To get the right shape, Hannah made a mock-up to use as a pattern and then cut the pattern into a million pieces to get the right shape. If Hannah had to pick a favorite part of the cosplay, it would definitely be the skirt, but she never ever wants to stand in front of an iron again. Thank you, GravefulGodfish Cosplay.
Next up, we have Titarnia, cosplaying as Tommy from Dream SMP. 5 months ago, they decided to crochet an entire cosplay, albeit a simple one. They found a pattern for the shirt that fit the overall design of the character's shirt, but had a harder time finding a pattern for the design in mind. Fairly simple, but would work just fine. The first step was tea-dyeing the yarns they had gotten into a too light color, as it was all the store had at the time, but then waiting for each skein to dry before rolling them up into balls. Trial and error, as they say. The first try ended up being too tight around the hips. At this point, they had gone through 3 balls of yarn and had to take it all apart again to make the waistband bigger. The design for the pants came for a pair of their own pants they had gotten from their mother a few years back. They were the perfect inspiration. The shirt was made to look like the character has tried his best to sew it up. They don't know if the streamer from where the character comes from is actually capable of sewing, but they thought the character didn't know, and therefore they tried to make it look a bit sloppy. The yarn for the shirt is a cotton and acrylic blend, while the pants is made from 99.999% cotton and 0.001% tea. The bandana is made from the same red yarn they used on the shirt. The cardigan was first meant to be red, as the character's signature color is red, but because of things that happened, the story of the character, they decided to make it blue in honor of Friend the sheep. The yarn of the cardigan is a cotton and wool blend and is soft and warm to wear. They're the most proudest of the pants and have more than likely already forgotten how they were made. Thank you, Titarnia. Next up on the scene, we have Kastia Cosplay, cosplaying as Night Elf Droid from World of Warcraft. This cosplay was Kastia Cosplay's first ever armor build. It's also the first cosplay she had made by herself from scratch. The armor parts of the cosplay are made out of EVA foam and Warbler. All the small details on the shoulder plates, arm and leg armor, as well as the breastplates, are all sculpted in Warbler. The feathers on the shoulder plates are made from 2 mm thick EVA foam and hand dremelled into a feather shape. Kastia has hand-painted every single feather herself on both sides to give it a lifelike effect. The feathers are also detachable from the shoulder plates for a safe travel to cons and easy storing. The skirt and all other fabrics of parts of the cosplay are quilted by Kastia herself. This was probably one of the most time-consuming parts of the cosplay, but she's also happy she took the time to do it, so the parts got to be the exact way and color she wanted it, and it was also a very rewarding process. The sword and staff are both made from scratch from materials Kastia had at home. She wanted to use up some of her materials, but also challenged herself to make use of what she had. The sword has foam cone and is covered in Worbla, and all the small details are also sculpted in Worbla. The staff is made of EVA foam and then drummed down to get a more tree-like texture. Thank you, Kastia.
Next up, we have a Zeitaku Cosplay, cosplaying as KoyoCon from Genshin Impact. So Zeitaku Cosplay is dressed as KoyoCon. Zeitaku wanted to make a cosplay with more details, and the Japanese style was some of the things that made Zeitaku choose this character. Zeitaku spent the last 6 months making this cosplay. All the patterns are made by herself, also dyeing off the fabric to making all the details on the fabric by hand and airbrush. Zeitaku also styled the wig herself and attached the mask to it. It was difficult to make the mask stay in place, but also make sure that the wig won't fall off. She used clips on the wig to make it stay. The gem in the vision on the bow is made out of resin, made in a mold Zeitaku made herself. It was fun to work with colors, patterns, and glimmer to make the crystal pop. The metal details on the costume are 3D printed by Zeitaku. It was a time-consuming project with way too much sanding, but it was worth it to get the smooth finish. The mask is the part Zeitaku is most proud of. It took some attempts to get this right size, but also to make all the details pop. With the pain was worth the time. The most difficult part is to learn to walk in the shoes. Jokes aside, the shoes are also made by Zeitaku. They are made of some wood she had lying around. Thank you, Zeitaku Cosplay!
And next up, we have Lupin Cosplay, cosplaying as Molly from Critical Role 2 campaign. Lupin fell in love with Molly from the moment she saw him. His design is very colorful, and they knew they had to make the coat. The coat was the hottest part of this cosplay. She spent around half a year on it. The coat has a lot of motifs on it, and she wanted to hand embroider them all since she has never really embroidered before. This took quite a long time. When she was finally done with the embroidery, she had to paint all the moons on the lining. It was a lot of work and many hours of thinking, oh god, what have I gotten myself into? But she's very happy with the end result. Molly's horn started from his forehead, and she wanted hers to do the same. She created a structure made of wobbler, and she could have under her wig where the two pieces went into their forehead. This is where she could attach her horns. To make the transition from the forehead to the horns more seamless, she used latex. She used the latex to glue the horns to the forehead. This cosplay took a while to finish, and she worked quite a few methods that she hadn't worked before, but this has just made the process even more interesting. And in the end, she was really happy with how it turned out. Thank you, Lupin Cosplay.
Next up, we have a Rebel Devil Cosplay, cosplaying as Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. So a day back in 2020 was Rebel out looking for some things for her next cosplay project when she literally fell over this fabric roll with color-changing jacquard. Her first thought was, make it blue, make it pink, make it blue, make it pink. And then it hit her. She needed to make a Sleeping Beauty cosplay. No doubt about it. So then the journey begins. Beside this beautiful fabric, she also needed to make the crown and the necklace and style the wig. The crown and necklace is made out of wobbler, and the wig did she buy from bought from the Amazon, and then style it from scratch. The cosplay has cost blood, sweat, and tears, and too much money, but it's all the time worth. Thanks to TikTok and YouTube, she learned some techniques to make them look like Aurora's jewelry. But the best trick of all is how she got to give the dress pockets. Yes, you heard it right, it got pockets. She is so much in love with this cosplay, more than she ever thought she would. For the first time, she really felt like a true princess. This cosplay is really a walk once upon a dream. Thank you, Rebel Devil Cosplay. So, next up, we have Stardust Creations, cosplaying as Jinx from Arcane. The top is made from faux leather, with the gold metal ringlets. The pants and one glove sleeve are made from linen fabric with hand-painted gold and purple stripes. She chose this type of fabric because she thinks the leather and the linen really complements each other, but also paints a really good picture of who Jinx is as a person and her background from growing up poor. The entire costume has hand-painted shadow work to match the animation style of the series. The belt has a panel of spikes that was applied one by one. All buckles, hair, accessories, shoe details, etc. are all made from foam. Her gun is made by using a sewer pipe as a base, then used a pattern for the foam pieces and glued them to the pipe and painted them. She also added a little Jinx signature to the gun. The wig is made of a base wig and has 4 wefts added to create more volume and to make a natural middle parting in the back. She chose different shades of blue so it would look more natural. The makeup takes about 2 hours to do. There is harsh contour and lots of shadows to mimic the art style of the series. Bright pink contact lenses, and lastly, veins made with liquid latex added around the eye with a neon eyeliner on top to imitate the dark shimmer that Jinx is affected by. Thank you, Stardust Creations.
Next up, we have Luciotic cosplaying as Kaya from Genshin Impact. All patterns and garments are constructed from scratch. All hard pieces of the costume have been 3D modeled and printed by himself. The wig has been cut and styled to fit the character, and the light locks has been dyed with the ombre effect and afterwards sewn in. The eye patch is made of leather that was wet and molded. The ombre on the labels, flaps, and the cape are dyed by hand. The details on the cape, flaps, and shoulder bands are made with a mixture of heat transfer, vinyl, and Lysofix. The fur is constructed from alpaca yarn that has been brushed out and sewn on a felted base. The undershirt has been constructed with sewn-in patterns and piping details. The corset has been detailed with appliques and has the lacing and busk hidden underneath the front and back panel. The pants were constructed with boning to hold the shape and stay on top of the corset with a custom packer for the costume. The details around the knees are made of appliques. The earrings has been carved in brass and welded together before assembling with the Swarovski pendant. I'm so sorry. The vision is 3D printed. The symbol and sign is resin printed and embedded with resin stone. The light inside is LED filament with the battery hidden inside the frame of the vision. The boots were constructed from scratch using traditional shoemaking techniques with inspiration drawn from riding boots as he is in Cavalry Captain. Thank you so much, Luciotic.
Next up, we have Tigermis Cosplay, cosplaying as Merida from Brave. This cosplay turned out to be more of a challenge than it was supposed to. What started as one plan turned into a second and then a third. Let's just say it was a long and stressful process. Underneath, Tigermis is wearing an underbust. To get a more accurate silhouette of the character, the pattern is drafted by hand and consists of 3 layers: fashion, strength, and linen layer. For boating, she used a mix of plastic, metal, and spiral steel. The fabric for the dress was hard to find, as the color changed a lot depending on what picture she looked at. Tigermis chose the color she thought would appeal the most to her and fitted the character the best. The fabric is velvet with a small bit of structure to it, which she found was just perfect for the cosplay. The ruffle part is made of cotton, and the cord in the neck opening is leather. The pattern for the dress is mostly self-drafted. Tigermis found a dress that looked similar to what she wanted and did some changes to make it fit her, and the character design better. The wig was made from a lace-on wig with extra wefts sewn into it to make it fuller and thicker. One of the wefts was hand-dyed to get a different shade for a better effect. After that, there was a lot of curling using different methods, teasing, and hairspray to make it stay like this. Thank you, Tigermis Cosplay.
Next up, we have Okamicosplaydk cosplaying as Jin Ling from Mo Dao Sushi. Okamicosplay chose him because she liked his way of being. At first, she didn't like him, but when you get to know the background, he's suddenly a completely different person. She has spent 3 months on hand embroidery, which is on the front piece. She has chosen to make it because she only tries new sewing techniques. The shoes are made completely from scratch, and the sword is made from EVA foam. To make the sword grip stronger, she has put resin over the grip. The sword by hanging is made of wobbler and embroidery thread. She has sewn the weft into the wig so that it was extra long in the front like he has. And she has received help and guidance in wig styling from her sister-in-law, who is a trained hairdresser. Thank you so much, Okamicosplay.
Next up, we have a cosplay made from Charlotte. It is a Hatsune Miku Cantarella Grace edition from Vocaloid. The cosplay tonight is worn by Kit Katless. This cosplay is from the video game series Vocaloid, from the song Cantarella Grace Edition. The character being portrayed is Hatsune Miku. The model wearing this cosplay initially bought a Cantarella cosplay that was in no way satisfactory, which led her friend and seamstress to instead craft the dress you are now looking at. The cosplay consists of a ball gown, a petticoat, a crinoline, 40 plus satin ribbon roses, shoes, a wig, and a mask. Crafting this cosplay started with the creation of a mock-up dress, which then served as a pattern for the dress. It was then sewn from bridal satin and lace, and the petticoat was thrifted and altered by adding at least 6 meters of extra tulle, so that it would fit the character design. The crinoline under it was completely handmade. The wig was bought, styled, and altered a little, and the white roses were added afterwards. The roses throughout the dress and wig are each made of 12 individual rose petals, adding up to at least 480 pieces folded and hot glued together. The shoes were thrifted and stripped, and new shoes have been crafted from the base of it. The mask was made from foam, and small magnets were glued inside to make it easy for the wearer to take it on and off. Thank you!
Next up, we have Panzermaus Cosplay, cosplaying as Goblin Slayer from Goblin Slayer. This is his first major cosplay he has ever done that has involved both the use of sewing, foam crafting, electronics, airbrushing, and leatherworking. All the parts of the armor were first made through the use of Pepakura Designer, a 3D program that enabled them to make custom 2D templates of an already existing 3D model. He used this on all parts except the forearm and shins, which were modified from already existing templates. The armor parts were made of EVA high-density foam, which are then primed with several layers of Plastidip before being painted with an airbrush. He used a black gloss primer with a silver aluminum for the base layers. The belt, straps, and pouches are all made from 2mm foams, wrapped, glued in fake leather, and then finished with a sewing machine. For the sword and shield, he used the same techniques as they used on the armor. The fur collar consists of several small pieces that were glued onto the neck piece, which was then airbrushed to give some more detail. The most difficult but also challenging part of the cosplay was the helmet with the red eye lit up effect. A miniature smoke machine is hidden inside the jacket with a tube and wire connected to an LED worn inside the helmet, allowing both light and smoke to pass through a custom-built housing that holds the LED in place. A remote is hidden inside the gauntlet, allowing him to turn on and off the effect at will. Thank you so much, Panzermaus.
Next up, we have Ironic Superhero Cosplay, cosplaying as Julian Deverak from the Arcana. Starting from the top, the wig is a long lace-on wig that has been cut, curled, and styled shorter. It was an altered ventilated hairline to make it fit Julian's spiky hairline. Julian has a weird coffee stain-like pattern on the lining of the jacket, which Yao has recreated with fabric paint and water. The rest of the jacket, along with the shirt, is made from cotton fabric, while the eye patch, gloves, and shoe covers all are made from fake leather. Since Julian's character design is very sleek, Yao wanted to make sure that everything sits as nicely in place as possible to bring his overall silhouette to life. To help with this, she has made homemade garters to hold the shirt in place underneath the pants so it doesn't bunch out too much from the belt area when she moves around. The shoe covers are also sewn onto the pants so they don't slip down throughout the day. Lastly, the arrows on the pants were carefully stitched on a sewing machine using a paper template that Yao drew. The tassels on the rope belt are made from yarn and glued together with the rope and beads that make up the rest of the belt. Thank you, Ironic Superhero Cosplay!
And next up, we have Eloki Cosplay, cosplaying as Elsa from Disney Frozen. 8 years late into the Frozen games, she decided to cosplay Elsa. Eloki always thought it would be Anna she ended up cosplaying, but after many years, she realized she related more to Elsa and her design. Eloki just loves sparkles. She also decided to cosplay Elsa. As said before, she relates to her. She thinks Elsa is a realistic character. It wasn't easy finding the sequins for the corset, so Eloki ended up making her own sequins mixed with some bought ones. Almost all of the sequins on the corset are cut by her, and she also needed to punch holes in them by herself. And they were all hand sewn on. The cape was the thing she feared the most to make, because it's so massive and she was unsure on how to make it. She brainstormed different techniques until she settled on one technique: glue and glitter. The blouse is made from the same technique as the cape. The shoes are made from a pair of see-through high heels with a see-through wobbler painted at the tip and heels. The wig was also something Eloki feared to style, but it turned out better than she thought it would. Thank you so much, Eloki.
Next up, we have Arianne Cosplay, cosplaying as Belle from the anime movie Belle. The costume is basically a dress that's made in two parts to take it on and off easier. The whole costume is made in satin fabric. The artificial flowers are glued on top and on the shoulder straps. The shoulder straps are made so that they can be removed from the top, so it's easier to transport it to the convention. On the skirt, she made around 60 petals and sewed them on in 5 layers, and then sewn in hand each petal together on the sides with its neighbor so they don't fly around when she walks. The wings are made of EVA foam and fabric is added on it. The wings are stuck to the top via bottoms, the same with the other part that sits on the wings. The cape is also stuck on the shirt with buttons. The gloves are made of stretch fabric and white lacy fabric sewn at the end. The hairband is bought, but the model has glued all the flowers on. On the shoes, there is fabric glued on, which is supposed to look like petals as in the movie. The wig was styled by the model herself. The makeup takes about an hour to do and took also a lot of practice to do. The whole costume took almost a month to make, and it's the most proud costume she has made so far. Thank you, Arianne Cosplay.
Next up, we have Elf Darling Cami, cosplaying as Asami Sato from The Legend of Korra. Cami created their Asami cosplay from The Legend of Korra back in 2019. All parts were custom made. The jacket pattern was draped on the stand and the jacket is fully lined in red satin. The trousers were flat drafted using tailoring techniques for a custom fit. They work with different materials such as pleather, faux suede, and cotton to give the cartoon look a few different textures. The gloves were hand sewn and the undershirt has a little secret. It's actually just a collar with a zipper in the back and not a full shirt. This makes the costume pretty comfortable to wear during most weather. Cami's favorite piece is the wig. Asami has a prominent widow's peak, and they brought back a black lace front wig, ventilated and altered the front lace wig to fit the design with some black synthetic hair, and styled the wig accordingly with curls and green hairpin. The makeup is also especially fun since Cami always bleaches their eyebrows to achieve the high and thin brow of Asami. Thank you so much, Cami.
Next up, we have MarieMoon Cosplay, cosplaying Agate Art Home from Witch Hat Atelier. Agate is a stupid and ambitious little witch, and Tone immediately fell in love with both her design and personality when she first saw her. Tone created every pattern for the cosplay from scratch and did a lot of fitting to make sure the pleats of the dress and the fall of the cape felt just right. a bit of a nightmare if she's being honest. Everything is lined or has clean finished seams, so the cosplay looks pretty both inside and out. The hat was definitely the most fun to make, as Tone has a bit of a weakness for making hats. It has a craft foam base, which has been covered in satin and cotton fabric, all lined and hand sewn with a gold button and a cute little gold tassel arm at the top. Tone's favorite part of the costume are the quill, ink bottle, and round notebook that Aga used to do her magic. The notebook is hand-bound and made from cardboard, leather, and of course paper that was aged a bit with watercolor. The pen is made from a chopstick as a base and then sculpted from polymer clay to get a bit of an organic look. It even has a function in pen nib, so all you need is some ink to cast some cool spells. Thank you, MarieMoon Cosplay.
Sorry. Next up, we have Vanellus Cosplay, cosplaying as Ciri from The Witcher Season 1. The construction of this costume started all the way back before the pandemic, and after a small break, it's finally able to be shown on stage. The costume depicts Ciri from The Witcher in the outfit from Season 1. Vanellus decided to cosplay Ciri because she really liked the show and really enjoyed the character of Ciri and her journey. She also really liked the design since it's a mix of both being practical but also looking elegant like a princess. Most of the costume is made by her self-made patterns or heavy modified patterns since the outfit is deceivingly tricky. The inner shirt was especially a struggle to construct since the sleeves has a very specific poofy form, but the tailoring also had to fit the body right and the pleats at the bottom had to look right. The cape was also deceivingly tricky since it has a lot of funny small features, whereas you really had to analyze screenshots from the show. It's very obvious from the hood, which was a very unique pleated look, that she had to figure out how to make it with some trails. The balloon sleeves and overall baggy look also had to be reworked many times to get the perfect oversized look. For makeup, she used the very light shades to give a youthful appearance despite not being close in age with Ciri. The bleached eyebrows also really put it together with the curly blonde wig. Overall, she was really proud of the finished result and enjoyed learning many new techniques in the process. Thank you, Vanellus. Next up, we have Leonine Cosplay, cosplaying as Vidya from Disney Fairies. Rebecca has a great love for animated character as she loves to enhance the cartoonish magical parts of the design to make it feel like the character itself came to life. The great attention is especially put on the shape and material of the vest. The combination of wires and edges and use of faux suede helps the idea of Vidya's clothing being made out of leaves. This cosplay has a lot of firsts for Rebecca. The wings are made of painted garden wire covered in iridescent organza. Vidya has the biggest wings of all the fairies, so it was very important to make them long and slender without making them too big and heavy to handle. The wig is made of two parts, so the ponytail can be removed. It's very heavy and therefore supported by thermoplastic and cardboard attached to the base. Different techniques and materials were used to getting the volume and the shape right. An entire wig of weft and is glued onto the base to make this of styrofoam, and then teasing, crimping, dyed, wetting, and lots of hairspray help to keep the shape. She even had to sew her own wefts from scratch from the cut-off hair to add enough volume to the bangs. The feathers are made of EVA foam to best capture the oversized cartoonish look. The most important part of making cosplays for Rebecca is making them washable. Therefore, each foam feather can be easily removed when needed. Thank you so much, Leonine.
Next up, we have Vincent's Cosplay Corner. Cosplaying as Celebrator cast from Critical Role. The making of Celeb was one of the most fun he's had with cosplay in a long time. Having to portray a very dirty wizard, he had to sew nice clothing only to destroy them afterwards. The coat itself started out as a nice fur coat, then torched in his parents' backyard with a lighter. That way he ensured the true crisp edge of burned clothes. The bandages around his wrists are coffee-dyed fabric, and everything, including the underwear, is self-made. Only the base of the shoe and wig is store-bought. The beard is a self-made one, glued onto his face with a special sort of glue that can withstand him talking, and trust him, he does that a lot. The book hanging inside the coats are functional, one being a little letter writing book and the other one being a spell book. On the leg are two separate bags, one for his phone and another one for a smoke machine that stretches up through his torso and into his hand for cool fire wizard effects. The main material used for this cosplay is EVA foam, furniture fabric, fake leather, and desperation. Thank you, Vincent's Cosplay Corner.
Next up, we have Safi Ko, cosplaying as Rintaro Ida from Wolf Game. When Aiden was watching a playthrough the Wolf Game and saw the character Rintaro Ida, he instantly fell in love with the character and knew that someday he would cosplay him. And now he thought the time was right to make his dream cosplay come to life. The whole cosplay is self-made and there weren't a specific pattern for any of it, so he had to be creative and think outside the box. He thought even if it's an odd hoodie, he wanted to make it as accurate as possible, so by cutting out some foam and then covering it with fabric, he finally made something that would work. For the shirt, he cut out all the patches himself and sewed them on. To sharpen all the finer lines and details, he used textile paints until he was satisfied. To get the right color for the pants, he decided to self-dye each leg in tie-dye. Excitement grew when he had to start on the rainbow wig. By purchasing an Arda wig, he decided to sew wefts into it, and the rainbow bangs were achieved by markers. He wanted the boots to have a leather look to them, so by making the straps and coloring them with leather paint, he accomplished it. To make the wheels, he decided to use the same method as he used with the hood, just by using wobble instead. The galaxy theme is his favorite part of the outfit, but let's not forget this amazing feature as well, the sleeves do flop. Thank you, Sophie.
Next up, we have a D-Kitty Cosplay, cosplaying as a Dr. Halsey from Halo 5. The wig is bought long and cut short into the shape of Halsey's hairstyle. It is styled with hairspray to hold things in place. The roots are dyed just enough to make it look more natural. The sewing pattern for the lab coat is made from scratch, and everything have been carefully measured so that all the details look proportional. The back was really fun and satisfying to make because of all the cuts and corners. The name tag on the coat is drawn on PC, printed out, and glued between two pieces of plexiglass. They're attached with adhesive safety pin bars. One of the pens in the sleeve pocket is only partly pen, and the rest is plastic drawers put into each other because a normal pen is too long. The scrubs are made of the same cotton polyester blend fabric. Both patterns are also made from scratch for a better tailor-fitted look. The pants are pretty basic, but they have a lot of pockets. The cobalt blue details are sewn on bias tape. The black glove is made of lycra spandex and is meant for easier Photoshop removal in pictures, because Halsey only have one arm in the end of Halo 5. Also, it's hard to hide an arm in such a small cosplay without looking morphed from some angles. She has been practicing the makeup a lot to look as old as Halsey. It's still difficult, but it really adds a lot to the overall look. Thank you, DKD Cosplay! Next up, we have Irix Cosplay, cosplaying Frizaroli from Hell of a Boss. Irix fell in love with Frizaroli the second he became a part of the show, as you just had to make him. All the patterns from head to toe are crafted from scratch, and the outline is made from pleather, satin, and tears. And it has been a struggle for Irix to figure out. The gloves and boots sits high to simulate Frizaroli's robotic limbs, since he has animatronic arms and legs. The tail was so much fun to make and is made from buttons, EVA foam, boning, fabric, plush, stuffing, and pleather. The teeth are from polymorph and has a tendency to get stocked. Since the design is rather plain and 2D, Irix decided to add ribbon details to make it pop a little more, just like a true circus outfit would. His favorite part is the headpiece, since it was a fun project to make the pattern, so it would... Whoa. Just gonna start again. Since it was a fun project to make all the pattern, so it would have to be crafted out of stretcher, so it wouldn't have to be crafted out of stretchy fabric. Also, the jingle sound gave a huge amount of serotonin. Thank you, Irix Cosplay.
Next up, we have Zeitaku Cosplay, cosplaying as Princess Zelda from The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. This cosplay is based on one of the many incarnations of Princess Zelda from The Legend of Zelda, which is one of Zeitaku's favorite game-based female characters. This is the second cosplay Zeitaku competes with in a contest. For the most part, the cosplay was fairly simple to make. A lot of the pieces had pre-existing patterns to work off of, which made the sewing process more manageable. Many of the pieces were still very time-consuming, and they required the use of a lot of unfamiliar materials and techniques. The dress was a simple skater-style dress and did not pose too many issues, but the vinyl details on the dress were very hard to get to lay properly and took some long time to cut out and iron on. The crests on the shawl and the big on the hip bag were both hand-painted onto the fabric. The wig had to have wefts sewn into it before being styled. The details on the bracelets were made with a grinding tool. This was a challenge because she had not used that tool before and found it quite difficult to handle. The golden belt, the bracelets, and the silver belt bucket were made with the materials resin and EVA foam. These were her favorite parts to make because she finds the materials very fun to work with, as they offer a great variety of end products. Thank you so much, Zeitaku.
Next up, we have Zhelenacos Cos, cosplaying Raiden Shogun Weekly Boss Tom Jensen Impact. There.
You're doing great.
She first started this cosplay when the leaks began surfacing about the Raiden Shogun boss fight. She've always loved the original Raiden Shogun design, but this was definitely a step further. It was also the first bigger cosplay of hers. There were definitely a lot of trial and error in this cosplay, but every time she had to redo a component, she learned a lot. She also really learned to appreciate his crickers. Jensen cosplayers are way too detailed. The body itself, she's redone 4 times, and while it, at the most of realization, was a drag. She's still extremely happy she did it. For a while, she mostly done 3D printing, and EVA was on the bottom of her to-do list for sure. But with this cosplay, she really wanted to use all of her skills. So when planning, she thought about what type of craft should go into each component. For example, the leg and arm armor is made from EVA, which means it'll hold shape. But it's also flexible for her to move. Her more exposed parts, like the wings and the pauldron, are made from 3D printing, so it can handle some resistance. And finally, her corset and back piece are made from wobbler. Easy to form, and it's stiff enough so it won't budge. Ending this cosplay is bittersweet. She's happy to say she's made it, but she also evolved so much in the process thanks to it. So ending it with her first craftsmanship competition couldn't be more fitting. Thank you, zhelenacos.
Next up, we have Caiva cosplaying as Elif Sos from Sound of Horizon's 6th story album, Myra. Wow. All armor parts were handcrafted out of thermoplastic, which is a versatile and expensive material. Thus, it would almost be a waste to not take advantage of it by sculpting some fine details with all the small, annoying leftover pieces we all end up with. That is why Caiva decided to add an extra layer on top of existing source material and give the cosplay some identity based on the source material, which is an ancient Greece and song lyrics, baby. Twin blades are made from scratch and is a combination of thermoplastic scraps and wood for maximum durability. There has been added textures, damages, and weathering for the entire cosplay to make it come across as more realistic. This includes dents, scratches to the armor, and ash and sand to some of the fabric parts, and real blood, of course. Yes, that is right. This doesn't look on par with the reference photos. Please have mercy, they are awful. Thank you, Caiva.
Next up, we have Snibble, who's cosplaying Rue from Princess Tutu. The tutu is divided in 3 parts: the understructure, an overlay, and the bodice. The understructure is a classical bell-shaped tutu consisting of 10 layers of ruffled tulle sewn onto a one-piece panty. The 9 lowest layers ended up being a total of 163 meters of tulle in running length. The bell tutu is the structure of the skirt, but it needed a bit of help, so there is a metal band between the 4th and 5th layer of tulle. Figuring out how to make a belly tutu took a lot of research, as well as trial and error. All the patterns are made by Sniblo and based on the patterns used for professional ballet tutus. The overlay consists of yet another 3 layers of pleated tulle, as well as the black satin overskirt. There is more than 400 feathers attached to the tulle, which is caught into a feather-like shape underneath to add the illusion, as well as rhinestones to make it shine. Gotta add glitter. The wig is sculpted around a metal structure with tulle in it. It was once long and straight, and it has probably been the hardest part of the cosplay for Snibble, as she has never worked with wefting and sculpting on this level before. She really likes how elegant the cosplay makes her feel and loves how it makes her want to dance. Thank you, Snibble!